Shazam was awesome. I liked it. What would you guys rate it? I give it a 7.5.
I'd take that.
Yes, I'll give it 7.6.
Like having fun and laughing.
Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? From the Neighborhood Fanboys here. We just all came out of Shazam. Obviously, I've seen it earlier, but most of the boys have seen it. So let's get into it. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button. It really, really does help us out. And subscribe if you want to see more content like this. But if you're listening, please add us to your Spotify or your Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, wherever the fuck you listen to this on. Add us.
And just final warning, it's going to be a spoiler talk. Obviously,
Yeah.
we're going to be going into full detail. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, come on back when you have. Or if you just want to see what our thoughts are, join us for today's podcast. We got some stuff to talk about.
Come on, Dusty.
Hey, come on, Dusty. Start off like
Yeah,
overall impressions. What do you think?
Overall plot points, impressions.
I actually have zero big complaints. Like, you know, I thought I was going into it thinking like, you know, seeing the trailers and stuff, just being like, whatever. I don't really care for the movie, but like, it. I hate how this is the baseline, but like, it didn't upset me.
Yeah.
Like, I actually like laughed, and I was like, okay, like it was a fun superhero movie that wasn't like
100%.
Like there were obviously some nitpicks, but like shit,
Yeah.
I say that about some of my favorite movies. Like I can go into a Star Wars movie and be like, all right, that was garbage. You know what I mean? But like, there's nothing overly upsetting about the movie, and like the humor was actually landing for me. Like you were saying,
100%.
like I was just like, I'm actually laughing at the jokes, and I was like,
very well written humor, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, James?
Yeah. Well, I was talking about that later, but there was something that just stuck out that this movie, the first thing I said to Ben, and I think I said to you as well when we left the theaters, like this movie had heart.
Yes.
Like there was something about it, it was very charming. And it's like, I was like you, I went in just kind of expecting nothing.
Expecto Patronum.
Yeah, expecto Patronum, yeah. I wasn't that excited about it. Like the trailer marketing material is like, oh, this looks like every other thing we've seen in the last like 3 years. So I just literally like expected nothing. And I was really, really pleasantly surprised. Like it's definitely not perfect, but I walked out like with a smile on my face, and I'm still thinking about the movie this morning. Yeah. That's another thing too. It's like if I'm still thinking about it the next day, it's good. Like versus every other movie I've seen, I try to erase it from my memory because it's like you know
blasphemy.
It's blasphemous, but no, the humor was great. Like the acting was really good. The script was good. Zach Levi is just like the guy's radiating
he's a
energy.
stud.
Like he absolutely nails the character, and like I think you were saying too, the reason why the comedy lands is because of how he acts and how he's doing it, but also the context of it. Like I personally am a big fan of like teenage coming of age stories, so I just this one really resonated with me because the humor was funny watching Zach, like an 18-year-old kid, talk to like gods or like talking in Norse or Old English, and he's like, yeah, so like fam, what's good? And it was like you like when you say it out loud, it sounds like it would be cringe, but the way that Zach delivers it is like super
works.
funny.
It works well.
Freddy's lines too, like his quips were so quick.
Yeah.
Like it was cool because the suspension of disbelief to like, oh, he would actually be that quick with those quips. Obviously, it's a movie and he's acting and it's like written there, but it's like
100%.
Just the delivery, like you're saying,
so natural.
Like,
And like, here's the thing: like seeing him in person, like Zach Levi in person, like he truly is so kind and like so like heartfelt in the way he talks, and like that shines through completely in this movie. Like he's just a genuine dude. And like even I was watching him on Jimmy Fallon the other day, he was talking about like how he had to go like therapy and stuff because like he just was not happy with himself, and then like that's when he scored Shazam, and like he was just like sharing love. He's like, if you can leave here with anything, he's talking to the audience, like just love yourself. And like he's like truly like a genuine dude in that sense. So like I appreciate it that much more when I see that come through in his performance. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know, just an overall stud.
What a legend.
Complete side note, but it's funny. Like I would love to see that video of him and Fallon because I've always thought that he looks like a jacked version of Fallon. I don't know what you get.
No, it's way better than Jimmy.
I said jacked version of Jimmy Fallon. Yeah. No, I've always thought that. But anyway,
guy's a fucking monster.
Yeah, no, enormous. But looked great in the suit. The delivery was awesome. The humor was great. Like there were definitely a few like cringy parts that I was sitting.
Yeah, let's get into the negatives of what we have because I know there are obviously a few.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would mostly just like point it to like the typical third act. Even though I still enjoyed,
the Disposable Army and
yeah, like I mean, at least with this one though, like at least with this Disposable Army, is like they weren't the focal point. They were like just in the background, like causing trouble to like the they were like the not the stakes, but they were causing the
implication of threat.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like
I was telling you this in the car last night. It's like at least they had a purpose. They were like, okay, we're gonna divert every other character that now does not have powers over to them, but then like. At least it was well written in a sense where the unicorn shit was all set up in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, which was cool. Like,
yeah.
Even though it was so simple and like if you look at it
childish, but
like kind of, but
it worked.
Still good. Yeah,
yeah, because like Darla's
he's a child. Literally.
Yeah, she's literally a child, and at the beginning she's playing with that like diorama of like the fucking unicorns and shit, and it's like okay, like it ties all together.
Makes sense.
The giant product endorsement with Skittles the whole movie, but it works.
Doesn't that show though? It's like you don't have to do something crazy big or it's like sure. Is it my favorite third act army? No, but like, I was okay with it. I was like, you know what? They put, like you said, all the things added up. And it was like, not 100%. Like, so guys, I think we should.
That's some kid on a skateboard.
Yeah, exactly.
I just think too, like, just the way David F. Sandberg kind of directs is still kind of horror oriented. So like, even though it's like very like kid oriented, and even like the monster designs and stuff, like. They're still following, like, mythology, so, like, you have a Banshee, you have a Minotaur, you have fucking, like, unicorn, Cyclops, like, you still have that shit, and it's very, like, you know, on paper compared to, like, typical scary villains, you're like, okay, like, it's not scary, but, but, like, the way they're designed is cool. It's different than, like, a typical faceless drone or, like, a repetitive drone that you would get in, like, something fucking, you know, Marvel or even some of the other DC shit, but, I do like the animation style. I thought it was different. It's almost like they're animating it in that old school like stop motion, not stop motion, but like you know like Star Wars like AT fucking like you know you can kind of tell they're moving like in a weird way. Almost jank, but like purposely jank, and you're like, why does that look better weirdly than like a normal CG monster? Yeah. That's what I thought when I was watching it. I'm like, this could be a guy in a suit. Like, even though you know it's CG, it's like, it looks like it's animated in a sense where, like, that's a guy in a suit.
I think, like, particularly in the CG department, like, where, like, a WB production shines over, like, a Disney production is that Disney is so obvious when they're shooting on green screen. Like, versus this stuff, there's still very clear green screen stuff. Like, obviously, when they're flying, they're on a fucking green screen. But, like...
The dragon shots were, like...
Yeah, the dragon shots...
The dragon riding shots.
The dragon riding shots.
The actual, like, wide shots of the dragon were sick.
Those were pretty jank, but, like, in terms of just, like, where... Like, establishing your actors in a location, I've become so, like... clearly attuned to when I'm watching a Star Wars or Marvel production. It's so fucking obvious that it's shot on the medium or on a green screen versus, like, these kinds of things, like... When they were in the Labyrinth, for example, or when they're just on doing any kind of street level stuff, it feels real. Like, I can't tell, for the most part, what's a set and what's not. So it's like, versus, like, when I watch a Marvel movie, it's like, it's so obvious. Like, everything. Yeah. Everything is fucking digital.
It's truly, like, even in the Rock of Eternity stuff, like, in their lair, like, that's an entire set. Yeah. Like, obviously, for the exception of the fucking, the book room and the door room, but, like, that whole fucking thing's a set.
And that's why it looks amazing.
Yeah, and you can tell that there's actual depth to it. Like, they're not just, like, standing in front of a fucking screen or a green screen. Like,
even, like, the throne room of the sisters. I was at, like you said, I'm usually pretty attuned. I was like, is this, like, an extended set? Obviously, like, in the background, but that's expected. You're not going to...
100%.
But, like, everything in that room, I was like, are the pillars real? Are they not? Like, they could have been. I don't know. Like,
and that's what I mean when I say this movie has charm to it, because it feels like like I was saying to Ben too. Like, it feels like an older style movie that you would watch in like the 2000s, maybe early 90s or something.
And it's weird that you say that, because when I watched it for the first time with Aaron, like, we came out and he was like, "Damn, I forgot what it felt like to watch an actual superhero movie." Because like, this feels like a superhero movie made 5 years ago. Or even more, or even longer ago. Like, it feels like
they early days of MCU kind of movie.
Yeah, or even like DC shit. Like, this tonally, like, other than obviously like they're children and like it's different kind of humor. Like, tonally, this would fit in like the DCEU. as it was. Like, even though this is kind of
stuff.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's been operating kind of in its own pocket, and, like, even James Gunn's addressed that, but, like, even still, they've kind of always alluded to the DCEU stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it does kind of fit in that realm. Just, obviously, again, with more levity and...
Well, speaking of the DCEU stuff that they referenced in the past, like, one thing that was really funny was, like, the cameo, how they did the cameo in this movie, was they were kind of teasing how they did the cameo of Superman in the previous movie.
Yeah, they're making fun of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So they were, like, poking at themselves, because you see Wonder Woman, and it's like, we find out after Billy Batson's having, like, a dream about Wonder Woman on a date with her. And so, but you only see, like, bottom down, and then the twist is that it's the Wizard at the end. It's, like, this super janky, like, clearly they just, like, fucking cut out his face, put it on, and didn't even do the proportions, like, massive head on, like, tiny body.
But it worked.
It was
fucking hilarious.
It was hilarious, yeah. And so they kept doing that, and then at the end, when Wonder Woman actually appears, they still do the thing where it's, like, at her feet, and you're like, is she actually there this time? And then, like, that's the payoff. And it's like, oh, she's other self-aware. They're, you know, like... So that was cool. I enjoyed that, but we should quickly, like, keep going and talking about our critiques of the stuff, because we've, like, been talking about, like, all the positive.
So I just want to
though. I mean, it's actually nice to be able to positively speak about.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird
once.
feeling. And before everyone, like, tears us apart, like, obviously we know it's not, like, you're not going into this movie being like, wow, I'm expecting, like, a fucking well-written, tight superhero story. It's like, we're not saying it's that. We're saying it's just enjoyable. Like, it's an enjoyable movie to go in and just, like, take your hands off the wheel, eat some fucking popcorn, and, like, have a good time and actually laugh.
Yeah.
So I want to address, too, because, like, I know a lot of people weren't exactly thrilled about how we, like, reacted to Ant-Man, and, like, people would argue that this is, like, on the same level as Ant-Man. It's like, oh, the comic relief and whatever, but it's like, where I would argue is different is that, like, Quantumania was meant to set up something huge. Like, it was meant to set up their next big villain, and we were expecting, like, obviously you're expecting fucking Scott Lang to be silly and jokey and quippy, but the fact that it was just such a disappointing setup to their big overarching story is the reason why we walked out of that so critical. And also, it's Disney, and we have, like, a very high standard of what, like, a Disney Marvel production is, versus this. I was just expecting...
There were no expectations.
I was expecting nothing. I was at most expecting to just maybe chuckle once or twice, because I enjoyed Zach Levi's type of comedy and how he, like, portrays stuff. So, like, that's why, you know, we can come out of something like Shazam and be like, yeah, you know what, we had a great time, it was really silly and it was funny, because it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. It's just a funny superhero movie.
100%.
Versus Ant-Man is supposed to set up stakes, and it sets up an overarching story throughout the MCU, and it was disappointing, and that's why we were so hard on that movie.
Yeah, I've seen, like, even just perusing our comments, like, even on, like, TikTok and stuff, it's like, people are going at us because we said, like, oh, like, it didn't set up Kang properly, and they're like, well, you know, he's not the only Kang, and it's like, but if you're labeling that Kang as
the most feared Kang.
The most feared version of him, and then you just subject him to being beat by Ant-Man, whether he's killed, whether he's sent to the fucking microverse. I don't give a fuck what happened to him. But, like, even just me saying I don't give a fuck about what happened to him is like, that says a lot. Yeah. And I'm not saying my opinion is vastly outweighs fucking everyone else's. It's just, I'm expecting to see Kang as a feared fucking person. And if you label that one in that movie as the most feared, and then you just dispose of him at the end, then, like, I no longer give a shit.
Yeah.
I cared more about the fucking post-credit scene of the Kang variant in Loki Season 2 tease than I did about the Kang that we saw in the fucking movie.
Yeah. And I think the main thing, what I'm trying to say here, and what we're all trying to say, is that, like, Marvel has kind of taken fans for granted and just expect us to care and like these characters, and doesn't give a shit about writing. So they've forgotten the writing aspect of stuff, and why their comedy doesn't land is because they write every comedy and every character like they're Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark and, like, the first Iron Man movies. That every character is written the same, right? There's no like variation to it. So it's just beating a dead horse. Versus something like this, it's earned, you know, like, and it actually make you care about these characters. Like, do I give a fuck about the Shazam family? No. Did I leave the theater caring about the Shazam family? Yes. Because of the way they're portrayed. Because of the way they're acted, the way that they're written, and they're actually deserved arcs, right? You know, like, I didn't walk in, like, you know,
they didn't write this expecting us to all be like, oh, well, you know, you're just going to walk out and have to care about them. It's like, no, like you actually wrote it in a way that makes me relate to these characters. Like Freddy, for example, fucking stole the show. Like he was amazing. Like his character development as a superhero and as like just as a kid, his development with Billy Batson, just seeing that like they're kind of like bickering and how he evolves into like being like fucking willing to sacrifice himself at the end was fucking awesome. And it's just like the way he was acted. I thought his acting was like super awesome. Like I don't know.
I think they did a really good job at giving everybody their part. That's a big cast of characters to give everyone the spotlight, but they didn't do it so much so that it's taking away from like the main point of the story.
Plot, exactly. That's how you do an ensemble movie.
Exactly. Whereas like I feel like sometimes Marvel kind of gets caught up in being like, hey, everyone's got to have their moment and like
Well, and you actually saw the characters fail in this too, like, which is like another thing. Like, again, sorry to keep beating a dead horse, but just directly comparing it to Ant-Man because they're like the closest that came out to each other. Like, you look at like, what was her name? Catherine Newton's character. I heard Cassie. You look at Cassie, and it's like Marvel also has a fucking bad habit of just making their characters fucking amazing instantaneously, and they're just fucking like,
there's no growth.
It's like everybody loses.
Small beat of like, oh no, I can't do something properly, and then the next beat of them is like, oh, now I am, and now I win, and I save the day.
Ray Skywalker.
Why?
Part of the Ray syndrome.
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna call it. Ray Charles.
What do they call it? Like it's Mary Sue. Ray Mysterio.
The 619 kid.
Yes.
Oh, watch out! But like part of the joke in this movie is that like the characters fail over and over again. I think Freddy lost his powers like 4 times in a row in this movie.
Yeah, he literally said too. He's like, again?
Yeah.
So like, but I also like how they didn't focus on that too, because it was just like they would lose it and they didn't make a big deal of like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? It's like, shit, not again, and like they move on. It's like,
and then they go and they're like, what, the fucking battle wagon?
The battle wagon.
And they're like, they were like, oh, we don't have our powers. We're still fucking superheroes. We're gonna go help out the best way we can. It was fucking sick. It wasn't like they didn't sit and fucking mope. It's like the fucking step parents come, like, gotta do the battle wagon, and then they fucking go and they're like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't have superpowers. It was just, I don't know, man. It was just, I thought, landed.
Yeah, just like for the amount of shit happening, like it was balanced well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I never felt like there was too much happening, which is great. Yeah,
and I never thought like I was like watching something that didn't have purpose.
Yeah,
like even though yes, that whole subplot of like the rest of the family powerless is going off and doing their own shit, like at least they made it worth it to watch.
Yeah,
like that whole like say what you want about the unicorn stuff. And like the giant product placement of Skittles.
There's a lot of silly things, but
like it worked. Like I was laughing, and like this is a big credit to like the wizard.
He was great. I fucking love the wizard.
Like dude, when they go to that like fucking like that parking garage and they're all watching the unicorn like hatch out of that fucking bubble, just like his face like. Like I was crying. I'm like, this guy's the best ever.
Yeah. Or when he's like laying in the bed when they first get into the cell. Or when he first gets in the cell. He's like, okay, we're gonna get out of here. Yeah, for sure. Like sarcastic.
Called him Freebie and Jeff.
Okay, so to build off your point though, saying like every character's written the same, it's like he had a quick beat of like comedy and then went right back to that like stoic like wizard kind of thing, right? Which is cool because it's like, okay, you want to give your characters like something different or like a comedy beat, like no problem, but they don't have to be like that the whole time.
They don't have to be like Thor: Love and Thunder and make every single character fucking joke.
Here's a North Scott.
I mean, and I've seen a lot of like just reading on like the people that have seen it. I've been reading a couple reviews and like a lot of people are like saying that like, oh, it's like cringy. Like people were picking on like Darla, for example. I'm like, why? She's like a literal child. Like people are like, oh, it's cringe.
I thought she was great.
Yeah, they were like, oh, she's like so annoying. Like she's so dumb. Like how could you not? I'm like, it's a child. It's a literal child.
What is her actual canonical age? 7.
Yeah.
Like
what were you doing at 7?
So I know it's like, and again, it's like kind of going back to what I was saying. It's like you kind of have to look at the movie for what it is and like not compare it to other things. Like it's not supposed to be serious. It's supposed to be just dumb.
Sirius Black.
Correct.
Even then though, it still has some good serious points though. Like the one sister makes that guy walk off the roof. I was like, are they gonna do this?
Brutal,
he does it.
And he does it right away.
Wow, I forgot they explode. I was like,
literally.
What?
Fuck.
I will say, in going back to like some of the like my downsides of the movie, I found it draggy a little bit,
particularly I found the third act was a little bit like it could have been zipped a little bit, and even the middle, I was like, there was about 45 minutes in, like when they're like in the labyrinth and they're just trying to, not in the labyrinth, sorry, when they're in the their lair and they were just kind of having like their group meetings, like it was funny, but it was like it could have lost like maybe 15, 20 minutes.
There's a little too much exposition.
Yeah, it was going on
about like the family and how like he can't kind of wrangle them all in, but I think it did pay off in the end because that. I don't know about you, but like that when he talks to Rosa at the end, like his foster mom.
Oh, that was a very touching.
Yeah, I was like,
that was beautiful.
I was like shedding a tear.
I definitely was choking up. I think where I meant with that was like particularly at the end with like the dragon battle. There was like a 10-minute window where fucking Lucy Liu was just staring at her sister and the dragon wasn't looking. I'm like, go fucking stab with the fucking dragon! Like he's holding the spear and he's just standing there like. And he's like, it wasn't even the point when he went to go like say his goodbyes to his family. He was just standing there like watching the dragon breathe into the fucking wall for 10 minutes. I'm like, and then when the final battle happens, it's just like, bro, you had like fucking 10 opportunities to fucking win there. So that's nitpicking, but I was just like, it could have just been tightened up a little bit. I found like I just found it was a little bit longer than it needed to be. What was the runtime? 2.5?
I don't even know.
It felt like a 2.5. If it was 2.5, it could have been 2. I think it didn't need to be as long as
we
it
went
was.
10:15. We got out at 12, just before 12:30. So
yeah, so
2:15 maybe 2:10.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think we could have shaved off 20 minutes. That's my nitpick. But
see, I didn't mind that last dome part because it was almost like final goodbyes for both sides. Because on one hand, it was Lucy Liu being like a "fuck you" goodbye to her sister, and like the other hand, it was like Billy's emotional goodbye. And also, the whole point of him being trapped in the dome was to like make her attack him so that the staff could absorb everything and then create the bomb, right?
This is fair.
I found it dragged right before that because there was a lot of like catch and release with like Lucy Liu the dragon and the axe.
Yes,
because it was like, you know, 1 second like he has the staff or he has the apple, and then the next second she gets it, and then Mary flies up, she loses her powers, he gets her, they come back, they have another dialogue sequence, then he goes back again, the dragon attacks a bunch of people, he comes back, like it was just it was the same thing.
I don't think we needed as much of the Anne stuff as we got. Like I get they were doing what they were doing. They wanted to set. That was another one of my things that I was just like, I don't know, man. Like she fucking basically tried to kill your family, dude. You're just gonna forgive her like that? Like I thought that ending was a little bit like
that was the most like predictable plot element for me. It was just her because like automatically as soon as she like has these feelings for Freddy, because at first when I first kind of saw that twist and they were on the roof when I like on my first viewing of it, I should say, I thought that she might have like flipped the switch and then like she's just a piece of shit the rest of the movie. Like I was kind of waiting for that, but then when they went the opposite way and she was just like all lovey-dovey for Freddy right away, I'm like, okay, like I'm like that's pretty typical. But
I liked it.
I was gonna say I liked it because it was well written.
I'm talking about the payoff though, after all the shit went down and then Freddy instantaneously was like, oh, I love you again, great, like you know, like which it makes sense because he's a teenager and he's dumb, but it's like also I was like,
fair.
The family's gonna accept that.
I kind of liked it though still because just like I liked seeing him finally like have a payoff as his Freddy form because in the whole first movie it's like it really focuses on his disability,
right,
and like how this like him transforming into like the powerful version of himself is like a saving grace for him because now he's like I don't feel like a nobody anymore. So like this was like him finally getting that same kind of sense of purpose, but like in his regular
one scene I was fucking howling when he's going in like trying to be stealth and take the apple. Oh man, I was fucking howling.
We're three grown men in a theater fucking crying audibly
when he's
and
fucking
mostly
rolling
kids around us.
With this walker. I literally couldn't contain myself.
I don't know if you caught there was a little girl like 3 rows ahead of us and down where was like, why are they laughing? I like heard her audibly say that.
I was fucking crying though.
When the one like lead sister there too is reading out their
oh my
thanks,
God.
Darla. Yeah, that's awesome. Great first sentence.
Great first sentence, but like just the way Helen Mirren delivered that too is just like
she's so angry and like it's like
oh, good one, Freddy. Take that one. When I watched that the first time, I was sitting next to Aaron, fucking crying, like in tears. Fuck, that was good.
Yeah,
just like genuine humor. That's why I like it too. Like, and again, you can tear us apart for being like, oh, like you always bash the humor in Marvel movies because
it's the same.
It's written the same. It's always like exposition type, like fucking wow. See how funny that was, and it's like no, it wasn't actually.
Oh, you like citrus? I like citrus. Well, we should get some citrus after this. It's like, oh, you're gonna fucking battle.
Like the difference here is like they're actual kids.
Yeah.
Like it's forgivable humor, but it's still written well. It's like I'm watching a bunch of like, you know, children to late teen kids deal with real world fucking superhero type fucking problems. Like it's supposed
really
to be like that. They're
too.
supposed to be stupid. They're supposed to be bad. Like and that's why that humor works. Like 3 adult fucking men sitting in a theater full of children were fucking crying laughing at this humor.
100%. It was the context plus the delivery of like the actors as well, I find, because like everybody in this movie I just found, I don't know how to say it as well, like shitting on everybody else, but it's just like they just delivered it better, and like you said, with the context of like age plus like the characters and all that stuff. But it's just like even the way it was written, like everything about it was just like you said, it just landed.
It's deserved. I think it's like it's deserved rather than just forced on you.
It's not like somebody holding up a card. Laugh now. Let's go. Like
it's true though. It's like Marvel movies have become like if they put a laughing track, it wouldn't shock me. Like it's starting to feel like that though. It's starting to feel like applause.
Well, it looks like it's shot that way too, like a sitcom. So.
Yeah, literally.
All right, let's get back into the cameo just briefly. But before we get into this, I want to preface with let's talk outside of the fact that having this cameo makes 0 sense if they're about to recast Wonder Woman. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
So initially, I was like, because again, I'm trying to still like piece together like how everything's going to affect the big picture. But outside of that, I was like, oh, I was really shocked that they were going to kill Shazam. I was like, are they fucking doing this right now? I was like, but I believed it. I was like fully like, I was like ready for that. Because I'm like, it kind of makes sense. They're going to reboot everything and then maybe he'll come back in the next iteration of the DCU, you know, somehow. But like kind of wrap up his DCEU thing. But again, I was ready for that to happen. And then when Wonder Woman came, it made sense because they were setting that up with like the earlier cameo. So like I got it, but then I couldn't help but feel that same kind of like, you know, Disney like
there's no consequence.
Yeah, there's no
that's
consequence.
What I felt. I was like, as soon as they're having this funeral, he's gonna come back somehow because they can never let anyone die in any movie now. It's like sick.
I thought they were gonna do it, but they let it hang for a little bit longer, so that's what made me be like, oh, they are gonna do it. And then Wonder Woman appeared. I was like, okay. So I mean, like it bothered me because again, it was like no consequence. And, like, they actually had the perfect means to do that, but then just at least let it sit for a little while. Like, is Shazam dead? And then have him come back after what happens in The Flash. Because, like, they could have done that. But, this was, again, one of the, like, I always think of, like, whenever they kill a character and bring him back instantaneously, I think of Rise of Skywalker, when it was like, holy fuck, they killed Chewie, and then literally the next scene you see Chewie walking. It was just like, it's like, that would have been a fucking balls play if they did
100%.
that.
And then it actually would have hit hard. It's like, oh, that's a beloved character.
It's like, even if he's not actually dead, just make us believe it for like a year, and then after Flash happens, and then like, you know what I mean? It's like then it's like more rewarding at the end. And you know what? I'm fucking probably gonna piss you guys off with this statement too, but I kind of felt the same way at the end of BVS when they show the fucking rubble coming up from Superman's grave. I'm like, it would have been so fucking sick if they just ended it on the grave, like you didn't even see, like almost like an Inception where it's like the totem is fucking spinning at the end, and you're like, people debate it forever. It's like, is he coming back?
See,
you know what I mean?
With that, now that you've got this topic, I have to attack you now.
Fair enough.
I loved that because obviously I'm a fan of the comics in that regard, and like the Death of Superman story from the 90s is like one of my favorite runs ever. And like I already know that's what they're going for. So like, and I feel like a ton of Superman fans in general like know of that in some way, shape, or form. Even if you've just seen the fucking cover of it, which is like his torn cape on the fucking flag on his fucking corpse, right? So like when I saw that, I'm like, yes. I'm getting that
like,
art in live action. Obviously, he's coming back. So like whether or not that was in there, like I still would have had that in my head. So like I don't care. Like that was a nice tease, I think, for general audiences of like, Superman is powerful as fuck.
Yeah.
He's coming back. Don't worry. Stay tuned.
I think I just really
there's no
like...
post-credit scene either. Like, that was just the end of the movie. They could have went harder and, like, get a fucking post-credit scene of, like, you know, all of a sudden, like, groundskeeper Willie's fucking digging another grave and, like, you see, like, the ground shake or some shit. Like, that would have been way too on the nose. So I like that little... And it's only, like... It's literally, like, 2 frames. Yeah.
I think what I'm just trying to say is, like, I when I think about, like, some of my favorite endings are, like, the ones that kind of, like, let you sit on it and, like, are more ambiguous. So it's just, like, even if you know deep down, it's like, no, there's no fucking chance that he's dead. It's like, it's just, there's like, you can have that debate with your buddies, and you can go, like, again, Inception's like the fucking penultimate example of that. I was like, was he dreaming the whole time? And then you get all these fucking theories of shit. I don't know. But like, or even what are some other examples that like do that? Like even kind of Blade Runner 2049 kind of does that. You're like, is fucking K dead? But it's just like, you know, if you really inspect it, it's like, okay, yeah, he actually did die or whatever. But like, there's those kinds of endings to me are more satisfying because it's like, it's like, don't worry, guys, he's not fucking dead, I promise. You know what I mean? Yeah. Versus it's like...
In Shazam, I agree with you. I think they should have at least let it... Because again, if they don't have a plan for him anyways, it's not part of the universe, just let it be anyways.
Exactly.
It's like, bring him back. By all means, fucking bring him back. But it's just like... Just
not in 5 minutes.
Here's the thing. Like, in a way, I love it because regardless of what you think of, like, Gal Gadot or, like, whatever the case may be with your thoughts towards the character... Nothing fires me up more than hearing that original Hans theme. Like something just like gyrates my sack when I hear it. so like
I don't know if you noticed
when you see her, it's like I'm like
ah! It's the best theme.
Yeah, and that's the first actual connection we've had to Shazam to another character other than that stupid fucking headless Superman cameo.
True.
So like I can't help but kind of like it, but at the same sense, I would have preferred if they just didn't kill him. Because A, it feels way too reminiscent of the death of Superman in BVS, and B,
they literally had a BVS scene. Like,
literally flying toward. I looked at you right away. I'm like, oh,
literally.
I said that in the trailer when I first saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, so they're doing BVS. All right,
literally. Like in a way, I almost wish they would have done basically just a rehash of the Doomsday fight because I would have preferred. Like, now that his family is all, like, gone and he doesn't have help, instead of dying because he's a child, she comes in and assists with the fight at the end. True. And maybe even helps him fucking collect that energy in her gauntlets.
I honestly thought that was where they were going with it because you were like, oh, like, you know, you're not gonna see like how this cameo fits in, like you're not gonna guess it. So I'm like, are they actually gonna bring her in?
Yeah,
and they didn't.
Which kind of would have been cool, honestly. It's like because it's her like defending this kid, but like you know that's also where he could have stood out and shown his abilities and like what he can actually do because he's like. He's not just a kid being defended by her. It's like, no, he's actually going to step up and like...
And then she goes back and talks to the Justice League, who we don't know who they are yet, but you know...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
I think that would have been too... I think that would have been too on the nose, though, like, with BVS. Because then it would just been like, okay, so we're relegating Wonder Woman to a third act. Show up and fucking save the day at the end of the end of the movie. But it's like if they would.
I liked her performance in this better than the entirety of Wonder Woman.
100%, 1,000,000,000%. There's no dispute of that. I
don't know. Like
it would have been cool.
We can sit here all day and like fucking talk about how she could have been written in better, but like
I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind it.
I didn't like love it. I didn't hate it, but it was just like, okay, cool. Like that's what we're doing. It was just like a full acceptance.
It made sense though, because she's like literally the only god left, basically. So I mean, like, so her appearance makes sense.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense in the greater context of what's happening in now. What is the DCU? Not so much.
Which we'll get into.
But because we're gonna get the comments being like, "Well, you guys, it's very clear what they're doing. It's a soft reboot." And it's like, but no, it's not fucking clear because you're
not clear at all. Yeah. I briefly want to touch on the visuals again.
Yeah.
So I know we already talked about kind of like the green screen and kind of the stuff that didn't look so great. It's weird to me because I watched an interview with Lucy Liu. I think it was also on Jimmy Fallon, and she talked about how they did a pretty new thing with it was like some like motion controlled rig, but it was also like linked with the cameras. So I'm assuming it's some like Unreal type technology, but like the reason why I'm bringing this up is like I don't understand. It's not just this movie; it's a lot of movies in general, and even like we see it on Mando. They can't do like medium or close-up shots of people riding shit on green screen.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
It's so
no
bad.
VFX house has done it well, like ever.
Yeah.
Like even in Mandalorian, like when they're on the fucking speeders.
Yeah.
It's like it cuts like from far away. It looks great because it's all CG, honestly, and that's why.
And
but they do it well, and then they cut in, and it's like, that's like me shooting a fucking.
We should actually attempt this. We should try it just to see. Like, I'm serious though. We should actually try it just to see, like, okay, what are they struggling with?
Yeah.
I want to know personally.
I think it's honestly like interactivity. It's like there's either like not enough wind,
which you know what? Some of the flying shots did great. Like when they were passing through buildings, did you see the shadows going 100%. On them? I was like, this movie's actually doing great at like integrating them into the scene.
Yeah.
And you know what else I love too? They didn't shoot in the middle of fucking daylight. It's like everything was like either at night or like the sun was coming down. And I'm like, oh wow, so like when you should shoot for real. Like I hate when there's these big fucking VFX and it's just like, you know, harsh daylight. I'm like, oh man, there you go. That's how you make your CG look like ass.
Or they do it in a clever way, like at that end scene when like they're under that underpass and the dragon comes in, and they're like the dragon's about to wax everybody.
Dude,
and it's like they're under the shadow of the underpass, not in like
the dragon CG was fucking mint.
Yeah, it was.
And footnote, it's the same VFX house that did all the dragons for Game of Thrones.
I figured as much. I had to have been.
Yeah. So,
hey, Khaleesi!
I remember David F. Sandberg tweeting that. Because he was like fired up about it when he was getting all like the shots in. There's also a funny. I just want to throw this in quick. Someone called him out on Twitter for like building destruction because obviously there's been that stupid fucking looming.
Why does everybody get so fucking mad about it?
It's so dumb. Like fucking relax. But anyway, like in the trailer, someone called it out because you see them smash through the building, and they were like, "Oh, like what happened to?" Like, you know, were the buildings evacuated? And he, like, CG'd a sign on the building, and he was like, don't worry, and it was like, fuck, I forget what I'm going to get this up quickly. Pauses for 2 seconds.
Well, like, while you're doing that,
yeah.
I truly, to this day, don't understand that criticism of, like, Man of Steel being like, what? That was apocalyptic. Like, yes.
That's the point. Correct. It's supposed to have consequences.
It's like he was threatening to terraform the world and fucking destroy everything. Yeah. Yes, it's fucking apocalyptic.
Quite literally.
Like, oh, but there was a lot of... That was way too much destruction. Zod was trying to reform Earth into Krypton. Yes! People died. Yeah, it was a bad thing. It was fucked up. That was the point. It's like, well, you know, you can't kill that many people. Why? If the guy's trying to fucking destroy the entire universe. There's a literal shot of fucking Superman crawling, being drowned in fucking Earth's population skull.
Then Thanos kills billions upon trillions of people.
Wow, what a well, it's because we didn't see a building fall down.
That's fair, yeah, that's true, yeah.
It's like, oh, it was done in a visceral fucking way. Nice.
Literally, with the best score I've ever heard in my life.
I don't get... Like, I would understand, you know, if, like, fucking Darren from AntMan 1 destroyed the fucking entire city of fucking, you know, New York, and people were a little upset. It's like, that was a bit much, but it's like... Like, Man of Steel called for that, because it was quite literally... the death of all of the human race.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
anyways,
so he responded to this guy, and he put, I'll put this up on screen, but it says National Association of People Who Use Their Phones in Cinemas. He put that on the building.
That's amazing. Just one more thing to touch on the dragon and visuals here. Well, not really visuals, but the sound design. When it does that like fear thing was sick. I was like,
fucking sick.
Cool.
And like there was a little plot hole there too. It's like kill them, and then like he just does the fear thing instead of just lighting them up with fucking dragon breath. Yeah. So you're like,
but like I can see past that because it was like, hey, again, it's a beat for. I don't know why. Maybe like I wouldn't have given that excuse to something like Ant-Man, but I just.
I think it's just because they're kids. It's like no one wants to see a kid get fucking fried like that, and also like I think we liked. Freddy so much as a character that like you let it pass because he's seen kind of like beating that fear thing or like beating
her like chaos
her whispers. Chaos whisper shit so like it's kind of like like fucking give it to them, stick it to the man.
That was kind of like a Dune moment almost when like with the box, the hand in the box thing, like the Bene Gesserit.
Literally. Visually too, the last thing I'll point out, the last thing I'll call Marvel out for is like just there's contrast. It's well fucking like every color is vibrant, punchy. Like
suits look mint.
The suits are great.
DC suits are by and large fucking worlds better than all of the
Yes.
Marvel suits. There's a really good video. I'll see if I can find a link that you can link it to, but somebody does like an actual breakdown of like all the Marvel suits and how they're actually all the fucking same, just like with different accents and
just
colors.
throw lines on it.
Yeah, it's like the fucking lines on the things. So it's like versus you look at like these DC suits, they all are A, unique, B, have like texture. They're all very tangible. You look at them and you're like, wow, that's a super suit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
They're all the fucking
And
best.
like honestly, I like how they give them some musculature. Like I see a lot of people like, well, you know, it's unrealistic. It's like I'm watching a comic book movie. I want to see that this guy is fucking shredded. I want to see that. Like throwing, and you know, I'm not calling out Hawkeye as a character. I actually like Hawkeye's character. I love the Hawkeye show, but like him in particular, it's like they just give him a vest. It's like, here's a leather vest and pants. Now, don't get me wrong, Jeremy Renner is in fucking fantastic shape.
Yeah.
Like, when he has the cutoffs and, like, some of his suits in the earlier days, you're like, wow, that guy's a fucking beast. But, like, the same thing doesn't apply to, like, 98% of the other fucking characters. It's
and
like,
then he gets his new suit, and again, it's the fucking purple lines with the fucking... Like,
yeah, of course.
No, but I agree. It's like superheroes are superheroes for a reason.
Yes.
They're the peak of, like, human, you know?
And just, like, the last thing I'll say, too, is, like, dynamic lighting in this movie is fucking fantastic.
Yep.
They use practical lights. Like, they use practical sets. Like, you can see every time they use lightning, they're shining a fucking blue light on
It looks
these
so
spots.
good. It's
And
crazy how just that little thing.
And that's the one thing I called out in our last podcast about, again, I'm sorry I'm picking on AntMan so much, but like you said, it's like, it's the most recent movie to compare this to. It's like, there's little to no dynamic lighting. So like when something big happens, it cuts back to them, and they're shooting the same fucking orange light at some way, and it's still flat because they don't have contrast.
Yeah. I forget what video it was, but somebody mentioned that it seems like Marvel shoots everything safe because they can't decide what they want to do with it.
Yep.
So it's like
they have a brand standard, and they just like, okay, we're gonna shoot on an Arri Alexa, and we're gonna shoot it in fucking flat, and then we're just gonna do bare minimum so that everything looks the same.
But it's just them keeping their options open. Like, they're not deciding like, okay,
exactly.
Like, you know, our character's going to be flying through or beside a building, and then the sun's going to hit them at this moment, so we have to shine a fucking orange light as they fly by. Marvel's like, well, we'll just shoot it flat.
Just shoot it all
we'll
flat.
see what they're going to fly through afterwards.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, nice. And then there's some poor VFX artist like, what? Let me just simulate a shadow over this guy.
Yeah.
I have 3 minutes to do it. Nice.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense because it's like because they're leaving their options open, they're basically making the entire movie in post versus like
100%. There's nothing being done practically on set, and like it fucking shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Whereas this one, you could tell like they were like a clear vision.
Yep.
Boom, like everything was there. Like even what I really liked, I know it's such a small thing, but like again with that dragon under the underpass there and like the blue eye lights in Freddy and Anne there, I was like,
100%.
Even that little detail was like it looks so immersive. Of like, obviously there's not a fucking dragon there, but they still went as far to like 100%. Put that in.
One thing we should address too, because it's like I've noticed a lot of people like ask like, hey, like, do you guys like, are you guys like in the industry or like, do you guys like do you guys make any creative stuff? So,
uneducated guys with their opinions.
So like we get a lot of that. I'd be like, well, you're just some guys on your couch, or you know, it's like to give context. It's and again, I feel fucking like shitty having to be like, well, this is what I do, but it's like just to give context so you guys like we actually come from a place that we can like at least talk about it to a degree. Reese does visual effects. Me and both Ben and I have gone to film school, so we both have like an understanding of how like these concepts are put into action.
And all of us have worked on movies. Reese has worked on literal films with some actors that you would know. Okay.
Yeah.
And and we've all been working in this industry for fucking years. So we're not tooting our own horn. We're just saying like, we don't care if you don't, you know, like our opinions, but we're not just coming from a place of like, you know, we are called the fanboys. We do fanboy hard over shit that we like, sure. But like, we do respect what everyone does. It's just like, if we don't find something great, we will explain why. And it's coming from a place of like, yeah, we are kind of educated on the subject.
My entire university education was literally just criticizing shit.
Yep.
I have an honors degree in criticizing shit. That's what I do. That's what I do. So I mean, again, and like because we come from like creatives ourselves, like when we give criticism, we're not bashing like the hardworking like guys that are just like fucking working 24 hours a day over around the clock doing these visual effects. It's about like we're criticizing like the head ups, and it's just like, okay, like how can we like make this better and like hold you guys to a higher standard, whether that means making the movies not come out every fucking year and giving your fucking VFX artist time to fucking work,
or whether that means actually, putting some extra time onto set and the production side, rather than fucking just, again,
having a clear vision before you go into it.
It's like rather than just like pumping out these movies like a fucking factory, like what we've been saying. So it's like, again, it's not us criticizing the people that are making this, because we know like they're just fucking doing their job, but it's like it's like how can we make we just want the best from these big brands, you know what I mean? But again, at the end of the day, we're still consumers and we're gonna still fucking watch it, and,
for sure,
but
absolutely.
Anyways,
let's get into the post-credit scene, particularly the mid-credit scene now, because this is going to be the most polarizing one, I think, for most people. I personally think, so just to give context, if you're one of those savage people that just wants to know this and haven't even watched the movie or don't want to watch the movie, post-credit scene is Harcourt and one of the other guys from Peacemaker. They show up to, looks like an abandoned gas station, to recruit Shazam to the Justice Society. There's a ton of shit going on. Like, first off, I think they must have shot this like fucking last month.
Yeah.
Did you see James Gunn tweet though, saying like, oh, like somebody called him out, being like, oh, stop putting your wife in like all these movies and shit, and then he's like, oh, they shot this like so long ago, like it wasn't even on me. Which is interesting to me because it's like. It didn't seem like it. I think... Sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, that's just... Even if they did shoot it before with the intention to put him in the Justice Society, to me, that...
Cut it.
Well, that's the thing. So, if he's saying, like, oh, they did that before, it's like, why didn't you cut it then? So, clearly, he's still going along with this idea, right? So, and if it was shot before this, it's like, why... what were they planning on doing? Were they planning on adding him to the Justice Society that we saw in Black Adam? Like, is that what you were going for, or are you just confusing the shit out of people more by saying, well, let's can Black Adam, let's forget that happens, but now you're recruiting this guy to the Justice Society, which is now this other group that we haven't seen anyone for. It's like, is Peacemaker now part of the Justice Society and not the Suicide Squad? What the fuck is going on? And it's like, if you're we were talking about this last night too, it's like, because this is so convoluted, they literally have to shoot shit in the new movies to show us that the Flash has reset something. Mm-hmm. Like, whether or not that's like Thanos snap-esque 30-second thing at the beginning of each new movie they make, that's like literally a wave of shit changing, so you know that like the effects of the Flash movie actually did shit, or if that's like a brutally open fucking line of context, like, oh, I wonder where Supergirl is, instead of saying where is Superman. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be something that shows not just us that know everything that's going on, but like the general audience, like, hey, there has been a change and shit is going to be different now.
Yeah. I think it's just like, why even bother with the Justice Society right now? Like, it's like, if they did reshoot this, it's like, I know they were like teasing themselves and they were being self-aware, like the whole joke and the bit where it's like, well, you're really confusing having the Justice Society and the Justice League, but it's like more so in the greater context of what's going on behind the scenes of the DC universe right now. It's like, you established the Justice Society and what was the DCEU with Black Adam, but we're canning that, so therefore that shouldn't exist. So now we're starting a new DCU with a previous character in Shazam that was in the DCEU, and we're asking him to be in a new Justice Society with characters that were also in the DCEU.
It's the red string meme.
Literally. And then I get so mad because people are like, "Oh, it's a fucking soft reboot. It's not that complicated." It's like, it's fucking it's
stop viciously characters from the past.
It is complicated, because it's just like you create these implications, especially by putting Wonder Woman at the end of this movie, and then James Gunn himself saying that Shazam is perfect because he lives in his own pocket of the DCU that doesn't interact with the other characters.
Connected it to
but then put Gal Gadot from the DCEU, so it's like, are you recasting Gal Gadot or are you not? But you have to. Mm-hmm. You can't fucking get rid of everybody else.
It's like they're using their star power that they've already established just to get people to come out to these movies, and then they're like,
But don't get me wrong, like, Gal Gadot's a fucking amazing Wonder Woman. Like, I would love nothing more for her to be in it, but it's like, you have to recast her. Like,
yeah, especially because James has come out and said, like, he's focusing on the Trinity going forward. If you have a new Batman in the Trinity and you have a new Superman, that's so fucked if you decide to leave Gal in there, because, like,
Yeah.
That's so confusing, and it's so weird. It's going to be so weird seeing her make her debut as Wonder Woman as a character beside Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck, and then all of a sudden randomly give her her own new movie and fit her in with this new Trinity. I don't want, just recast her out of principle.
Not to sound like a little bitch, but it's just, unfair to, Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, too, to be like, you guys weren't good enough to, make it into this next stage of, when it's they're, I think they were mostly loved by people. At least, mostly Henry Cavill.
I would say if they were loved, the movies weren't.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think everybody.
So it's okay, sure. Okay, you guys don't like these movies. Give them another chance on this.
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever.
I just think it's so convoluted. I think eventually they're going to lead to just a full soft reboot. I do agree with him in the sense where Shazam was existing in his own little pocket because yes, they referenced shit in the first one that kind of happened, but it was very ambiguous still. Right. But now, with this post-credit scene, it makes it complicated.
Yeah.
For, like you said, the Justice Society thing and the fact that it's Harcourt and the same guy from Peacemaker.
Wonder Woman was in the movie.
So if you're now implying that Peacemaker was in that same kind of universe as Shazam, it also doesn't make sense because you showed the Snyder Justice League in one of the last episodes of Peacemaker. So what are you doing?
And it's again, I know the old people are just wait, and you're going to see. And it's just again.
But it's okay, we're saying, sure, we'll wait and see, but they better fucking give us something that explains that there's a change. And if James Gunn is saying that the Flash is the catalyst for all these changes happening,
then great.
Then give us fucking one scene at the beginning of whatever the first movie is to officially kick off the DCU that shows that there have been changes made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give us something. Give us something that fucking tells us that, and not just, well, it's a soft reboot. It's not that hard. Anyway, we can go on.
And then it's the last credit scene is it even complicates that even more, because now the third movie is looking like it's going to be the first villain from Shazam again, right?
Which
so if Shazam 3 is going to take place after in the DCU, but the sequel is with the characters from the DCEU.
I don't think that matters in a sense, to be honest, because because all they even if it's a Flashpoint event and shit changes, not everything has to change. I agree with that.
Right.
But, they're erasing. Essentially, the only shit really changing is they're erasing the Justice League as we know it. So
at this point.
There's got to be some explainer to make people realize that oh shit, there's differences now, right?
Yeah.
So Mr. Mind and Dr. Zavanna can still be the villains in 3, but they also have to explain that there's no Superman. The Wonder Woman is different now that you saw in Shazam. There's got to be different explainers to show us that. But anyway, I guess we'll see what happens if anything fucking happens.
I honestly have a strong feeling it's just gonna be fucking sweeping under the fridge and fucking
which is so fucking bothers me so much.
I think it's literally gonna be that, and they'll be here it is, here's the new one. But and again, we can't be fucking negative Nelly because we haven't seen it. But it's just the more
what's really promising though is Ben Affleck's most recent comments.
Oh, that was hilarious.
and again, that just ties in with exactly what we were just talking about, because it's not promising when someone like Ben Affleck, we're not even fanboying over Ben Affleck's Batman right now. We're just saying in general we were excited to see the potential of him coming and directing something in James Gunn's DCU
because he's a good director.
Exactly, because James came out and said, yes, I've been talking with Affleck, he's great, we'd love to work with him. But now Affleck comes out and he's I don't want to do what they're doing. He was very specific in his wording, and he was James is a nice guy, he's probably going to do a good job, but I'm not going to go direct anything there how they're doing it.
Yeah. Not interested in the types of stories that they're going to
exactly,
tell, which basically means it's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy cinematic universe.
100%.
Which oh god,
it hurts.
It does hurt, and good for him for coming out and saying that. And then he also touched on his Justice League experience again, and basically just took a fucking massive shit on Joss Whedon. He references the fact that his favorite Batman stuff he's ever done is in The Flash. He kind of hit
That's promising.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited.
Even though he's in it for 5 minutes, which is another line he said right after that, so it's not even he's going to be in it for a long time, but at least it'll be a good send-off for him in that regards. Because at the end of the day, it's if this guy had so much such a like a wild ride with the character, and he was just like spread out and like never got his chance to fully shine. Like it's nice knowing that he'll finally have his kind of moment to shine, even though it's for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, dude. Just I don't know. I'm just scared for what's coming next. Honestly,
it's like
Aquaman 2, especially. Just like
fuck.
Like I'm excited for the Flash, but like, what the fuck is Aquaman gonna be?
Here's and we were talking about.
Might as well
this
just
briefly.
fucking write it off too at this point.
It sounds really fucking malicious to say this, but I hope it is fucking awful, so they have to recast him.
Yes.
No. And the reason I say that is because I bet you they're still hanging on to the idea of like keeping Gal and keeping Jason as those two characters and then recasting the other three. But it's like if that movie fucking tanks, then it's like we have to recast. You know what I mean?
There have been rumors that the test screenings have gone horrible and it's not testing well, which honestly good. Like no offense, like I love Jason as Aquaman, but like for the sake of them going forward with an entirely new Justice League, I feel like it has to. Like, they have to recast everyone.
Yeah.
They have to. Give me a new Aquaman, give me a new Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman.
Bring Jason back, man. Like, everybody's been fan casting him as Lobo. Fucking
then give him Lobo.
Yeah, you
like,
know what
fuck.
I mean? Give him
like,
Lobo.
Shazam, again, other than this fucking post-credit scene, was the only one that would be able to be transferred over due to a Flashpoint event because, like, they're saying he wasn't connected to the original shit. So, like,
which would be fine, yeah.
Give us Zach Levi Shazam, whatever. Call us hypocrites for like calling out like the cherry picking of James Gunn, but like this does make sense because he's right. It was very ambiguous in the first one where he fit in. There were like Batman and Superman merch that they had in the first movie that like didn't match up with like the same Batman and Superman shit we got in the DCU. So like you can play it off, fine. Blue Beetle is coming out too before the new slate of shit. So like that technically could be in this new part. Sure, give us that. Mm-hmm. These are two B characters.
Yeah, they're not the main.
They're not the main Justice League. Shazam could be a part of the Justice League. New 52, we saw that. So if they eventually want to throw him in there, sure. I would love to see his dynamic with the other characters.
And we're getting new Lanterns too. So I mean, Lanterns are obviously a big member of the
Justice
League. So
period for the first time.
Yeah. So it's like it's really exciting because it's like I would be thrilled at the premise of seeing a brand new Justice League.
Yes.
Not a half recycled Justice League. It's just fucking
100%.
We're beating a dead horse, but at this point, just fucking. And again, I want to take that back. I don't hope Aquaman tanks. That sounds super malicious, but it's just like for the sake of like them, just simply for them needing to because of how like it didn't do well. That's all I'm hoping is just that they redo. They see that they need to redo everything. Mm-hmm. Anyways,
100%.
On that note, Shazam was awesome. I liked it. What would you guys rate it? I give it a 7.5.
I'd take that.
Yes, I'll give it 7.6.
Perfect. Shazam was awesome. If you like funny shit, go see it. If you like superhero shit, go see it. If you like movies, go see it. All right?
If you like having fun and laughing.
Yeah. If you like dumb shit, go see it.
100%.
See you guys.
See ya.